All right. So, Kim, one of the more common complaints that at least I hear is that there's peak pay for no reason.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make any money when that happens.
Yep.
So, why don't you walk us through this order here?
So this is actually me. Um, so for a week and a half, it actually, for the past 2 days this week, it has not been like this, but for a week and a half straight. And people might think like, oh my God, I would love to see something like this. Believe me, you don't. Um, I saw a peak pay from $4 all the way up to $7 every single day during every peak hour. So from 11 to 2, from 2 to 4, and then from I think it was like 5 to 9:30 or 5 to 9 5 to 9. Um and it was insane to the point where like you can't get any orders. And the orders that are coming in, you're like, well, I'm afraid I'm not going to see another order for another hour. I might as well take it. And the order you're seeing right here, I ended up taking it because I think it was like $10 or $11, but it was only going a mile. I'm like, okay, let's go shopping for like 2 items and let's go make $11. So, my whole entire week last week was shifting around myself and adjusting as a driver on how to still make money during peak pays because I wasn't making any money on DoorDash. So that's going to be like our segment is how do you still make money when you see peak pays like this and you're not getting any orders?
Yeah. So, one of the things that drivers, maybe newer drivers, don't realize is the customer is being charged more. So, a lot of drivers assume wrongly that it's just DoorDash paying us more out of the fees that the customer already spent. No, the customer is paying more for the privilege of ordering. So, when we start seeing peak pay like this, the customer is already spending more money. They're tipping less because they're spending more in many cases. And drivers see peak pay and assume that they're going to be out there making a killing. So when you may have only had like 100 drivers out for your immediate area, all of a sudden you have 300 drivers out. So less orders, more drivers, oversaturation. It's definitely a problem. Now, Kim, I've got two trains of thought on this.
Yeah.
So one of them is that we have seen times where there should have been crazy peak pay and there was like nothing, right?
Yeah.
So like the wildfires come to mind. I don't recall seeing anything about peak pay when it was crazy smoky and hazardous to our health.
Yeah.
But we're seeing these companies not paying us adequately when they should be, and then they're choosing their times really poorly when they should be paying us more. So I don't know. I have one zone that is actually like in my immediate area, and that's my zone. There's one other one that I could drive to, but it's like literally just like a dot on the map. And it's a city, with, I hate to put it like this, it's just a bunch of elderly folks out there. And, it's like, it's always red, but the drivers that I know who have actually gone and driven that market say it's dead. It's red because they don't have any drivers and they need just one.
Yeah.
So how
So
can
it was,
we,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, how can we stay profitable when there's peak pay? That's really ultimately
See, that's the thing. I was taking orders that, like, if you took out the peak pay, there's no way I would be taking those orders. But because it was like the one and only order I was getting, like, per hour, and,
Mhm.
if you look at the overall money to mile ratio, I'm like, okay, I can do $11 for, I think this was like 1.1 miles. So, okay, even though I normally wouldn't do this, okay, I'm going to end up doing this. So, DoorDash ends up getting orders like every order delivered. I mean, granted, that's at the expense of, the customer and everybody else paying the drivers these extra crazy peak pays. But their objective was let's get the orders delivered and they got it done. But I mean, I guess they know the effect on the driver, but as a driver, you can't make any money. So, like, as soon as I went through a day of this, and I'm like, okay, I have to switch my strategy. And I think that is the really key to peak pays. If you only get a peak pay, if it's on a Saturday night, this might not affect you. But if you see a consistent peak pay and you see it's affecting your earnings, I that's why I have 16 other apps to fall back on, fire them up.
So
Because I went into doing catering orders. I went into even doing my shopping apps. Like reverted to other apps that I dusted off. I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to
yeah,
make my money.
for sure. So I can't speak for your market or anybody else's, but in mine, in the past, when there's been unnecessary peak pay, so we'll see like DoorDash going from really busy to not at all busy, and then we'll see a massive uptick on like Uber or Grubhub, right?
Yeah.
So, and interestingly, Kim, it's not an immediate like shift, right? It doesn't just go from like DoorDash to like Uber all of a sudden. It's like there's that 5 minute, 10 minute gap where people are like, I'm not paying that. And during that time, they're like installing the other apps. So yeah, no, for real. So if you can, run as many apps as you can when there's peak pay, and don't be loyal to any one of them. Be loyal to the one that's going to pay you the most for the job at the time.
Yeah, and I also go to areas that I know there's no drivers. Like I always have like a secondary, third, fourth, even a fifth location that's actually 30, 40 minutes away from where I currently at, because I want to know the areas that drivers aren't working, because you're most likely going to get orders where drivers aren't working because you're now in an area that you can get orders. So that was another thing, along with training on my apps that I did last week. And yeah, if it wasn't for those things, like you don't want to be sitting around waiting and being app reliant just on one
Yeah.
app. Like never be app reliant, because when things like this happen, you still want to keep making your money.
So I've got another tip for this. So I wish I would have thought about this when I was doing the slides, because I would have actually like put a screenshot in, but of course, unfortunately, it's an afterthought. So in my market, I drive in Bellingham, Washington, and that is the main city within my market. Now, about 8-10 miles north, there's a town called Ferndale. Now, the population of Ferndale and the restaurant density is a fraction of what it is in the main city, Bellingham. So as a result, drivers don't tend to go up there to wait for orders because there's fewer orders placed. If we're in Ferndale, chances are we brought something from Bellingham to Ferndale. However, when they're now some of you are going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine, but proximity does matter. And if you are dealing with peak pay like this, do you think that these companies, DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever, do you think that they're going to ping a driver who's 15 minutes away with a higher acceptance rate if you're already up there? No, you are going to get the order before another driver with a higher acceptance rate does. If you can position yourself in a place where there's still restaurants to pick up from that do a decent volume, you may be better off to go to the typically like slower area of your market, because there's less competition from other drivers. So when something does come through, you're going to be the first one to get it.
I think the only time in my opinion, that doesn't work is if you're on the LOP program with DoorDash. Like they'll ping someone on the LOP program, even if you're 5, 6, 7 miles away, because you're one of the only drivers in the area that are on the program, versus it going to you first and then, regular DoorDash drivers. So I think that's the only time that might not work for the bigger orders.
I can't really comment on that because I'm not LOP,
Yeah.
so I don't really know. But it's very possible. So just consider that. Like seriously, guys, that's a gold mine of knowledge right there. If you can put yourself in an area that is not typically as busy and therefore has fewer drivers when there's obnoxious peak pay like that, or it's just oversaturated, you will be shocked at how many more orders, how many more offers you'll get than if you were waiting around in the same parking lot as 30 other people. Hey, thanks for checking out that clip from our show Money Hungry, hosted by me and Kimside Money Plans, right here on the RideShare Guy, live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed that video, check out the full episode by clicking here, or you could check out this video. And don't forget to subscribe to the RideShare Guy and turn on all notifications. We'll see you Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Money Hungry.